What's going on? How'd the rest of your evening go last night?
I watched, a 4-hour college football game because that's what you do on Saturdays.
Yeah.
So, like Maryland pulled it out in Virginia, which fuck Virginia. So that made me pretty excited.
We forgot to debate whether FIFA or the NCAA are more corrupt during that last international break.
It's looking like my opinion at the moment is FIFA
Is
or World
more
Soccer
corrupt
in general. Yeah, because there's like no rules, whereas the NCAA makes up rules as they go just to benefit themselves. But apparently, like in FIFA, you can just do whatever you want.
Who or what has done whatever they want?
Well, it's just like fragmented, I guess, right? Like Bentoncourt gets a suspension, Enzo's fine, he's a team captain. City has 115 charges. I'm sure nothing will happen. Everton keeps getting point deductions somehow. Forrest thinks that all the refs are taking side cuts to cover betting spreads.
Well, none of that's FIFA though.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah,
so
because
yeah.
FIFA's not involved in actually doing anything. Yeah, I mean,
They so that would be like the FA
right
would have to step in, and or UEFA. FIFA actually has, to my knowledge, is the only organization that has taken some action. Like Uruguay has like a ton of players banned now for their antics.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, wouldn't they be able to sanction Mexico for continuing to be assholes?
Well, they have. They had to establish that whole phased, like, you get a warning, and then, like, I think they should take more, because, like, what they did is not effective. But they did take action against it.
They did something. That's fair.
Yeah.
I don't think they've done enough. And, like, I don't know. At the top of it, right, like, if you're... It's tough to not be corrupt if you're born Swiss or Italian, and to have this fat, bald shit Gianni Infantino be both is absolutely an affront to any type
is that
of
the
like
FIFA, like, whatever.
That be re-elected. Like, I imagine that's
CEO.
What's
South
American style
God,
election.
Emperor of footballing activities or something.
Bald-headed shit. Anyways, but yeah, I mean,
president. That was easy.
They're all it's tough to tell. Like they're all a bunch of high-level admins that don't actually do any work lining their pockets, right? Much as anyone else working for, or most people working for the NCAA themselves.
Yeah.
At least NIL was kind of leveling things for the players, at least, which is good to see. So.
Sure. Yeah. Wait, this is the, like, players being paid? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, name and likeness payments, yeah.
Yeah, but that was, like, the NCAA had to be forced into that by the Supreme Court, who ruled in favor of the players.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like, to that point, they were just stealing all the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're, like... in a large part just funded by, like, local taxpayers and the school itself.
Right.
While being the highest paid, like, the coach is the highest paid person at the school, like, faculty member. Like, those coaches make, like, more than NFL coaches in some cases. That's why Harbaugh was willing to go back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're just, like, siphoning off children and their likeness to their own
not to mention that just like City, like Michigan apparently paid, like, it will never face any penalties for cheating for however many years.
What's the state of Michigan this season?
They're all right. They're mediocre. They're not that great. I think Ohio State's going to thump them. And so, it'll go, I don't know, in a sense it'll go nicely with them being all butthurt about, like, getting fake penalties and being persecuted or whatever, but
they lost to Texas.
Texas is really good. Yeah.
They beat AR State. What is AR State? Arkansas.
Arkansas State, I think.
Why doesn't it just say Arkansas State? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
This is a soccer podcast, so let's.
I don't know why you derailed us immediately.
For the listeners, this came up as a topic heading into the international break that we might. I refuse to watch college sports for the most part. I like to maintain friendships. I have to go to like a couple games here and there, but generally I'm not a fan.
I like weeding it in so that like it's the more time I spend on a topic like this that actually interests me is less time I have to spend on something like Brighton Ipswich. So
well, we're not. We don't have to cover that. Yeah. I feel like I've relaxed my. I didn't even watch that. I watched Goal Zone, and guess what match never came up on Goal Zone?
Oh yeah, that's a good point actually. Yeah, like I give Goal Zone
literally zero highlights from that match. I don't think there was like. There wasn't even like a chance that was good enough for them to switch over and just show you that an attempt was missed or something. Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan of the production and the prioritization of Goal Zone, but they did get that game. The coverage of Ipswich Brighton was spot on yesterday.
Yeah.
I'll give them credit where credit's due for that one.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about.
By the way, which Chelsea jersey did you end up going with this season?
For this,
I think it's the first time you've worn this. Yeah.
Yeah. If you had to guess, who is it?
I said it needs to be Nico, but I think, given that Nkunku outplayed Nico yesterday, I think that was a mistake. But
yeah, well, we'll talk Chelsea.
Okay. All right. Sorry. We don't want to get out too. We've already got off the structure here. All right.
I don't have a structure. I just feel like because of what a shit show Chelsea is, we seriously have run the risk of being a Chelsea podcast, and I don't want to. Like, my thought was like, let's cover some other shit and maybe end with Chelsea this week, but
I think that makes sense.
It's a Cole Palmer kit.
Nice. All right, that's fantastic. Yeah, maybe that is what I said. But I
got harassed by you and Tom into getting this kit
because you said not to get Nico.
Actually, I do have one item, one like bit of housekeeping to take care of here, which is Shannon listened to the podcast last week, and
first mistake.
Yeah. But she's trying to be supportive, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Huh. Man, is that what people do in healthy relationships?
Yeah, that's what she does.
I was gonna say, it might be one-sided in this case. It's a move.
I don't know. I do a lot of like staying up all night and following her around through the woods too. So.
That could be interpreted a couple different ways, but anyways.
Yeah. And also, I go to her races. So yeah, I made the comment. That's actually kind of related. I forget how it came up, but I made the comment that Shannon is always in pretty rough shape. And she took serious, like, we hung out on, it was like Thursday or Friday, and I think she walked through the door angry at me about that comment. And I was like, you think that's not true?
I have thoughts on this when we get to the end.
Yeah. And she was like, you and Derek are fucking disasters. Like, you're held together by glue or like bubble gum. And, yeah, and I was like, yeah, but this is like deflection, man. Like, like, I'm a bit older than you, and my knee is shot. Like, I've rehabbed that. I feel like I'm plenty active at this point, but I don't like that morning. For clarity, we woke up and we were walking to get coffee, and her. Like, I made the comment, like, looking like she had run 30 miles the day before. She usually runs like 20 to 30 miles every Saturday. people should not do this. Trail running, 100-milers is a really stupid thing that people do.
Well, it beats. It's not like subject to debate. Like it's beating the shit out of your body, whether you choose to do it or not. You know?
Yeah, it's fine. Like she loves it. I go out and support her, but it is, these people are psychotic and they're hurting themselves. And she, like, that morning I watched her like limp her way to wherever we were going. Like her feet are just in this constant state of being swollen. I think she has to see a massage therapist weekly or every 2 weeks just to keep.
I assume she was going like semi-weekly, but
I don't know exactly how. Like a lot of work goes into just like making sure she can get out of bed.
Well, yeah,
in the
apparently,
morning
if you don't even know what the cadence is, then there must be a lot going on.
Yeah. And so I don't know if this is like a boiled frogs thing, or she like she thinks she's fooling other people, like as she limps around through the. So the point is, I apologize for nothing.
Okay, and nor should you. And I'm not surprised that this was a trigger, but that's because it gets away from the virtue signaling that she likes to do to you and I, because despite the fact that we're doing the best we can, despite having like knees of 50-year-olds and or probably in like top 5 percentile shape for people with those level of knee injuries. Just doesn't think that we're ever doing enough because we're not at her level of acumen, right? And then that ignores the narrative. That narrative ignores the fact that she's beating the crap out of her body to push it to a higher. Now, granted, it's a much higher limit than we're pushing ourselves, but it still does. It still does some damage, Whether it's my shot of whiskey a night or whether it's running 30 miles, both of those things will do some wear and tear on your body.
She's had her fair share of injuries over the years too. She spent like 6 months out for tearing her plantar plate.
How about the wrist that was sprained for 3 years?
She wouldn't go to the doctor for that. She did that snowboarding, to be fair. She's not very good at she tried snowboarding with me for a day, and she one of the things you have to have instincts for when you're snowboarding. So the most common injury, this is good for you since you ski, most common injury skiing is a knee injury. Most common injury snowboarding is a wrist injury. And it's because people don't know how to fall, so that you people's instinct is to stick their arms out and try to catch themselves. And Shannon has that instinct, and so she sprained her wrist pretty bad snowboarding, and then spent months just kind of not addressing it super well. Anyway, so I don't think that anything I said, I was very confused. I had to think about what she was talking about.
I forgot about it. I don't know, just the rash of shit you and I get for the 5 alcoholic beverages we have a week, just but I'll take it, but I'm also going to give it out.
Yeah. So anyway, we can moving on. Let's actually talk about some soccer here. It's 15 minutes in. We probably lost any audience we had.
The Wolves game just wrapped. Wolves Newcastle game just wrapped.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was kind of a tale of two halves. It seemed like. Newcastle really couldn't create great chances, and Wolves was playing some great defense in the first half, and by and large did a good job of continuing to play defense in the second half, but really got beat by two fantastic shots, one by Schär and one by Barnes, right? And Schär's was deflected, I think, right? So that wasn't necessarily clean in that sense, but sometimes you have to take those shots, and they were in a position where Newcastle needed to get shots off to try and get back in this, and they did. Wolves, I was expecting a lot more goals in this one, but Wolves midfield and defense played pretty well throughout, but again, kind of the same old story where it's not really enough for them to to win a game, a competitive match against a better team. But
yeah, have they won a match? I don't think they have. Do I have a table here? Wolves, 1 draw, 3 losses. So they're off to a rough start to the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I thought the teams were pretty well matched, and honestly, in the dying minutes of this one, who was it? I think it was Cunha put a shot on target that I thought for sure was going in. I don't know if you saw this. It was like at 90 plus 3 or something. Pope made an insane save. There was a lot of good
game
goalkeeping on display in general. I thought.
Yeah,
but
looks like
this weekend.
4 saves each in this one. The goals that were scored were great shots, or unsavable in a sense, I guess, right?
Yeah. Pickford. I wonder. I don't know who on the last international break England played at keeper,
but I think
Pope could be a shout to supplant Pickford.
True.
Going forward, Pope's Pope's been injured for a bit, but he looked really good in this one. I think Ayat Nori going down with an injury is a big story. I think he's among Wolves' best players. He got cooked by
Chelsea.
Noni Madueke. But
yeah, I was gonna say he's had an up and down season, but he played well in this one.
Yeah, I do think that they get a lot out of him on both ends of the pitch, and so that injury, I don't know, it didn't look good to me. It didn't look significant, but it looked like he might be out for a week or two.
Yeah, it's not like there's already a dearth of depth on this team.
Yeah.
It was also interesting to me that Guimaraes and Joe Linton continue to start, which probably makes sense. But for me, again, this was another one of those games where you saw Newcastle's at their best when they're on the front foot and attacking and just feeding their front three, and their midfield wasn't controlling the game until they, really exerting themselves until they made substitutions, brought Barnes on, and then I forget who else was going to. Yeah, Tonali. Of all people coming in there, so maybe Tonali would seem like somebody with the potential to start more often, especially at the expense of Joel Linton.
They got to get reps out of him before he downloads the apps again too.
Correct.
Yeah. So anyway, the subs really made an impact and maybe that's the story of this one, is the subs for Wolves were not super impactful, and in some cases they were forced into them.
Yeah.
And the subs that came on for Newcastle made an impact. Willock, Barnes, and Tonali were all really good. Trippier, when did he come on? 64th minute. He's I think he's just his best years are behind him type thing.
He's just hanging out now.
Yeah. And Livramento, he's pretty good. I think he's a great piece for them to have for the future. He came through Chelsea's academy, and I was pretty upset when we moved him on, but I think that he went from Chelsea to Southampton to Newcastle, but he's probably gonna be in and out of the England squad depending on what Reece James can put together here. But that's why we moved him on is we already had Reece James.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. This game could have ended a draw. I feel like either team could have could have taken this. I'm looking at SofaScore. The average ratings across the two teams are roughly equivalent. And I do think that Newcastle beat them on XG, but just barely.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot in it.
Yeah.
Which is why I was kind of hopeful that like Newcastle would drop points here, but
yeah, and Newcastle move into third.
Yeah, this is a game where I think they needed to get 3 points out of it. So credit to them. That's why they're in that position now.
Yeah. Yeah, and then earlier today we had the Arsenal and
Tottenham gets blanked. Nothing new to report here, right?
Yeah. I guess what's worth reporting is that I thought I was not so you asked when we were hanging out yesterday, you asked me what I thought the score of this one would be.
You were not being serious when you said 5-1?
I said 5-1. I hadn't factored in all the injuries that Arsenal had, and I think that that's probably the biggest story of this one. This is a bizarre complement of players that Arsenal had to play, and they still got it done at the Tottenham Toilet Bowl. Like Trossard and Martinelli both playing on the left flank, like kind of overlapping each other. I don't like everywhere I look it says this was a 4-3-3. I haven't checked a heat map, but it had Martinelli starting in midfield, flanking Martinelli and Partey flanking Jorginho, who was their worst player by a lot. Jorginho was exposed in this game, and it just shows how valuable Declan Rice is. He was getting mugged. He was just bodied off the ball. I mean, he's in his mid-30s at this point, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that reinforces your point, which I hadn't really thought about. Odegaard and Rice being out of this. Odegaard being hurt, which I don't know what the timetable is on him, but, Rice will be back, and I think that shores things up. But, yeah, I mean, not for that, right, this may not have been as even a match if they had more of their first choice midfield, but it does expose lack of depth, right? Like,
yeah. Well,
because Jorginho was able to come in and do a job last season, it seemed like, but
yeah, they went into the international break with knowing that they would be down Rice in their next game, and then during the international break, Zinchenko, Odegaard took a nightmare injury. I think he'll. Yeah. It's one of those tendon, ankle injury. I think he's probably going to be out for a month, maybe. And then a real freak injury to their high profile signing, Calafiori. I don't know if you saw that. It was wild. I think they were playing France, maybe. Yeah, it was Dembele. Dembele got tripped and did a flip, and as he was coming down, his foot clipped the back of Calafiori's foot and just snapped it. It's just this freak injury. Calafiori's back was to the mayhem behind him, and he just got clipped by it. I don't
pay attention to anything going on with the Italian national team, so I missed that.
Yeah,
but
well, nobody does.
Yeah,
nobody has to because they're rarely involved in anything. Yeah, so it was tough. This I guess figuring out a lineup, and I didn't even pay attention when Raheem Sterling came in the 80th minute. He came in for Martinelli. Gabriel Jesus came in for Trossard. I'm assuming he moved into the 9 position. And then Raheem, I guess Havertz probably dropped back into midfield. I don't know.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting looking at the stats for this one, and look, Tottenham had their, basically, I don't know, more or less had their first choice team. I mean, Kulusevski was playing right mid, which is a little bit weird, but I thought he had a good game. Doubled Arsenal shots. I mean, like, this is a game, like, with Arsenal short-handed in midfield, like, this was their opportunity. Instead, they go out and take, 5 red cards, 5 yellow cards, and I don't know.
What is up with Tottenham's midfield? They don't have...
I don't know that Bentancur's that good.
Bissouma?
And Kulusevski's out of position. You gotta wonder whether Odegaard's just like... He doesn't feel like Odegaard's ready to play big minutes in there. I don't know.
I was more like... I was trying to figure out, like...
Sarr could have started. I don't know.
Oh, Bissouma's injury. That's
a problem.
Bissouma has an injury, is what it is. Bissouma's injury. Sarr was the other one who I was, like, I don't know, wondering why he didn't start there. I think it didn't matter either way, because Kulusevski, I thought, like you said, I thought he had a good game. He was fine. I will say... This was a bad weekend for Luke. It's a bad weekend for him to not be here to defend himself.
Well, I'm keeping a list of discussion points. I don't know what you do, but I can. If you've got things you want me to add to the list,
I just take shots when he's not here to defend himself. That's what I do.
Fair.
But I mean, last week I brought up that, like, when I was asking him how he feels about Ange and how stubborn he seems to be. And among the things he's stubborn about is he doesn't believe that set-piece coaches are necessary. And he says that while last season they were, I think, among the worst at set-piece defense. I'm pretty sure they were the worst. And Luke said, like, well, this season we're not that bad when N equals 3 games. And that defense of that corner where I think it was... Who was it? Had a free run. Gabriel, I think.
Yeah.
He scored.
Yeah.
Just had an unmarked run at goal, and that's the difference. That's the 3 points.
By the way, I appreciate that you've given our listeners the respect they deserve as being like 2 or 3 standard deviations more intelligent than the average, pod listeners, and using things like terms like N for sample
N
size.
equals 3.
It's this, N equals 3. That's now again, you can't do that when Luke is here because he's got more of a sales mindset to things. He's more. Wheeling
plus
and dealing.
All the pre-show activities that we watch him.
It inhibits his business stats recollection from school, but from uni. But it's so I'll say this, like, again, like, I'm looking forward to hit whatever he happens to rejoin us, but I'm glad he's staying so resolute because I think he's wrong about a lot of it, and Ange's refusal to change, whether Ange's refusal to recognize blind spots like set pieces or playing a high line that's getting exposed. They talked about that again today. I don't, that wasn't really what the game hinged on, but like they're continuing to play that way. And I think you see some of that in like the roster and the substitution patterns too. Like, I don't know, like Sarr would have been a more natural player to start in midfield than Kulusevski. And arguably probably could have brought more to the game than Bentancur did. But it's a poor result when you've got your favorite front 3 healthy. To not get more out of this, but love to see it.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw what I posted this somewhere. The announcers when Timo Werner was coming on said Tottenham.
I probably wasn't sure if you were being serious.
No, the announcers literally said Tottenham need a bit of quality. Maybe Timo Werner can provide that as he's subbing on.
It's a hot
like,
take for a Sunday
that's
morning.
A whole new sentence. I've
Yeah.
never heard that before. Yeah, Timbo came on in this one. He didn't really bring. None of the subs really brought anything here. Raheem Sterling looked not good as well, I will say. It was a lot of what we experience at Chelsea, where he plays hero ball, and he's not it in the 10 minutes he had.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, and so I think those are two interesting players, right? Like two Chelsea wash-ups. Both went on to try and find like minutes elsewhere, more defined roles. And it doesn't seem like either of them are. And for Werner, like, I don't know what last season led him to believe he was going to be playing more minutes this season, or like why he's not looking for a team where he can start. Like, he could go back to Germany and start every match.
Where?
Sterling could go to, I don't know.
The reason
or
he's
something
on
and start
loan
every
at
match.
Tottenham is because Leipzig was not playing him.
But he could have gone somewhere else in Germany, I
Yeah.
think, and played, I guess. Yeah, but yeah, fair, right? But yeah, and then Sterling, like, again, like, looks like he's going to be buried here, but I'm not surprised.
What's up with the Bundesliga table? They've only played 3 matches. I was curious. Vinny's got 3 wins in 3 matches, 11 goals for, 3 against. Holy hell, man. Bayern beat Holstein Kiel 6-1 this weekend, yesterday. Anyway, Elise got a goal. We were talking about the German league, and I wondered what's going on over there. Leverkusen already has a loss, so they are mortal. All right. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that the last thing, I thought both keepers played really well in this one, and David Raya just continues to prove why that was a good, like...
Yeah,
what
game.
Arteta did with his goalkeeper situation was bizarre. The way he handled it, I think he... It could have probably been handled a lot better, but it is like sometimes you just have to be ruthless when you know that you are correct, and I think that this is one of those cases. And David Raya made some phenomenal saves in this one. Yeah, so.
And let's not lose sight of the fact that Tottenham's down in 13th at the moment.
Yeah, I would never lose sight of that. They've had some tough fixtures, in fairness to them, but
it's early season. But I like seeing them down there.
Yeah, I do.
And then Ange talking about trophies and stuff.
Yeah, ridiculous. Like, it's like such an absurd thing to say. I don't know how the room of reporters doesn't just start laughing whenever he says.
Because they're afraid they'll get something thrown at them. He's so angry. Like, people think I'm angry, but like it's like a sarcastic, like, humorous approach to things. Like, he just seems pissed off all the time. Like,
yeah.
I wouldn't want to say shit to him. Like, there's very few people I find intimidating, but like, he's a angry Australian. Like, I don't want to fuck with that.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, this is a rough start to their season. Well, Newcastle, I think it's debatable how good Newcastle are, but they lost to Newcastle. And that was very much that high line he plays being exposed. We talked about that last week. And they lost to Arsenal today. They beat Everton 4-0, and they drew on the opening day to Leicester. That's when Jamie Vardy became my personal hero. In that match. I don't think we talked about that enough on this podcast, but Jamie Vardy with the shithouse moment of the season potentially. I
can't wait until he plays Tottenham again.
I can't either, because that was at home. He'll get to play Tottenham in the Tottenham toilet bowl.
Mm-hmm.
That was at home. That was what's the name of their stadium? I don't know. I don't see it on here, but yeah. Anyway, let's see. What other fixtures should we discuss? We're obviously going to talk about the Chelsea one. I have a lot to say about that.
I mean, I think so. Probably the most shocking result of the weekend, right, was Forest 1, Liverpool 0.
Yeah.
And you know, especially when you look at the statistics and the run of play, right? Like, it's not like Liverpool wasn't threatening in this game, but you know, Forest, to my surprise, especially hunkered down on defense, put up a clean sheet, and you know, was able to get something out of nothing again. Where, you know, Cho just kind of does what Cho does, which is, this was again, I think, right. It was another goal where he cut in from the left and then shot it with his right foot, right, and it seems like the only goal he scores, and it seems like people keep giving it to him, which is shocking. But, like, I don't know. They had kind of, that was their play in this one. It worked out for them. Liverpool just couldn't break through the whole game.
Yeah, I think at the point that goal was scored by Cho, he was being marked by Connor Bradley, I believe. I think they subbed McAllister and moved Trent into the midfield and had Bradley playing back there. And yeah, I think that it might have been, Bradley's young, obviously super promising, but I believe it was him who got burned by Cho on that. And that, I mean, it's easier said than done, but when you have a really one-footed winger like Cho, you really have to work to show him to his other foot. And I think that was a scenario where it was just too easy for him to get the step in the direction that he wanted to go. So,
but I think that it exposes one of two big weaknesses that on this team, right? Which is, like, Trent isn't the best defensive back. Then you don't have, you know, necessarily great cover behind him there, I guess. And at the time, they also moved him into central midfield when that goal was scored. So you don't necessarily have, like, that. You have that exposure from a center defensive midfield position too. I mean, they were playing Gravenberch back there to start. But that was probably an area they should have been more aggressive in addressing during the last transfer window. And glaring again, I mean, besides the fact that I hate Jota, like, he had been playing okay, and I understand why he gets a start here, I guess, but, like, this game...
Did you see the comment I made in the Discord?
Yeah.
Derek's the broken clock that's right twice a season with Jota in this one. Go ahead.
Yeah.
He was bad. He was bad for sure.
I don't think, he's I've always said he had limitations. I didn't think he was playing that poorly. He was shit in this one, and I think it was really a game that was calling out from Nunez for the start. And so when did Nunez come into this?
The 60th minute.
So, yeah, I mean, that's probably about what made sense. But in fairness, he didn't score either, right? But I don't know. Seemed like one where you want to start with it, have that target out there from the onset.
Yeah.
But, it's not like there aren't goals to be had against this Forest defense. But credit to them, kind of punched above their weight in this one, put themselves... coming away 3 points. Where are they at now? They're up in 7th. So, I mean, they've had a pretty good start to the season. Maybe it's... I get a sense that some of the signings and the changes that we talked about last season that we thought were going to be more immediate are starting to take hold with this team. And so it's not just the Gibbs-White show anymore.
Yeah, I mean, this is a case it's fairly rare that I really agree with what the announcers, the like color commentary, have to say when I'm watching soccer. But this was one where I thought that they called it pretty well. Like Forest came in with a better plan than Liverpool did. They came in with a very stout defense, and they have great defensive, like Murillo, like or Murillo. I forget how you say his name, but I think the announcers call him Murillo, but it looks like Murillo to me. I don't know. They all played out of their skull. The back four for them, and the plan clearly was to like hang out in the game and then start subbing on their best offensive line.
Well, and some attackers, right? Minute. Like Cho and Alonga are very incisive players, right? Coming on for less incisive players to try and win it, win it late. So I mean, they had it seems like they had a script in this one that they played out exactly the way they wanted to.
Yeah, it was great management by Nuno Espirito Santo. Yeah, and a big 3 points for them, and Liverpool fans are just in shambles already. It's only the fourth game.
Alex is like, I never had any hopes this season. I was like, what?
Dude,
it's fucking four games in or whatever.
4 games in. Yeah. Yeah, it must be nice to feel. I remember when I was able to feel that way. Now I'm happy for any result.
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess like maybe 3-4 seasons ago I would feel pretty depressed if we took an early season loss to Forest, but now I'm like, I don't know, we could beat the fuck out of City and then the next week lose to which we haven't. I'm just saying that as an example. Like, we could beat the crap out of City and then next week lose to Ipswich. Like, Chelsea's such a randomizer. Like, just yeah. So I expect nothing any time I turn the TV on to them. But yeah, I guess Liverpool fans still have hope. It must be nice.
I would think, yeah.
I thought the Southampton Man United beat Southampton 3-0.
What could you possibly want to talk about in this game?
So, what I want to shout out is that Southampton they were the better team for like 40 minutes of this one, or maybe 30. When was this penalty given?
Yeah, they held a possession advantage through halftime.
Yeah. The first half.
Yeah.
They thoroughly outplayed United, and
you're saying that's an accomplishment?
It is if you're Southampton. They were awarded a penalty, and Archer missed. Or it was saved by Onana. And almost immediately following that, De Ligt scored the opening goal. Yeah, the 35th minute. And then 6 minutes later, Rashford scores. And which is like, I don't know, it's like a Sasquatch sighting at this point is a Rashford goal. And they go in at half down 2-0 after really having what appeared to be a great game plan and executing on it, and they just I don't know. It's tough for Southampton. I'd like them to. I like Southampton. I'd love to see them figure out a way to hang out in the PL for a season or two. Plus Leslie Ugochukwu was playing there. But yeah, that was all I wanted to shout out. I mean, United, at the end, this was not close. United deserved the win, but the first half, it was. I like when they went to the locker room, I was like, man, if I'm Southampton, I am not happy about my luck here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's fair, right? To set up and play the way you want. I think it's just, an example of where the Premier League's at, I think, to an extent, right? Where these teams that are getting promoted, like 2 out of 3 of them, like, don't even have a chance from day one. And there's just too much of a disparity in talent that even when your tactics and your effort, for lack of a better term, for the dumpster fire that's United aren't there, they can still pull out a win.
Yeah. And I think another story from this one is Harry Maguire subbed on, and then immediately, within 1 minute of being on the pitch, he took a yellow card, and then he got hurt. And he had to limp his way across the finish line.
I need to get on Twitter and find out what his mom's take was on that.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not friends with her. I don't want to be friends with her. And then I guess we could talk about Chelsea. Maybe like wrap up there. Are there any other?
Well, I think the Villa comeback against Everton was probably the second. Probably the second best game of the weekend, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe had the best individual goal as well, by Duran.
I wish we had picked him up.
Just a game winner, as it turned out in this one. But, Everton goes up 2-0 in the 27th minute off of McNeil and Calvert-Lewin, and then Villa just kind of fought back into it. Everton didn't have, anything to close this game out, which isn't surprising. I guess it was surprising they came out to a lead, but like we've seen Everton underperform for however many seasons now.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess Dominic Calvert-Lewin got beat up over a couple of his misses. We were talking about this.
Yeah.
Or at least I don't think, like, those aren't, they're goals that you want your striker to score, but those weren't, like, where's the XG here?
I mean, one of them went off the crossbar. Like,
yeah,
great shot. Like, I'm not going to fault him for
shot.
that. And then the other one, he held on to it too long, but like at the same time, like he's focused on beating the keeper, right? Like, I don't. He's not the scapegoat for this team.
No. Everton's total XG for this match was 0.9, and they scored 2 goals. So, like, I don't know I'd have to go look at what individually the expected outcome was of those positions that Calvert-Lewin was in, but they weren't layups. Like, there was work to do there, and it's one of those things where I think optically from your couch they look easier, like much easier than they actually are. So I felt, and I saw he was getting the business from some reporters, and I I don't know. I ended up feeling kind of bad for the guy.
I think, that's losing sight. I mean, I think the more interesting narrative around it, right, is like I got the sense when they were down 2-0 that this was like Villa's like magic was starting to slip away a little bit, and this is a game that they absolutely should have been winning if they're challenging in the top 5. And, to their credit, Unai Emery got back in this, and he
took a yellow card for his efforts.
Yeah, well, we know that yellow cards aren't the hot commodity they used to be in the Premier League. So,
Chelsea was fined for. I mean, we'll talk about that in a second, but they were fined for for ill discipline today, which is hilarious. John Duran. I thought that so Chelsea was in heavy negotiation over acquiring him over the summer and didn't get it done, and I wonder if we'll regret that. Like, I think he's going to be good. I think he's scored let's see if I can find his. It's not super obvious on this website I'm looking at. He scored in most of his recent matches that I can recall. He got a goal against West Ham, a goal against Leicester. He did not score against Arsenal.
Yeah, he's been balling out.
Yeah, goal against Everton, and these are all like he's coming on for a few. Like he's not starting matches, I don't think, for them. Like he's like a super sub who comes in. Yeah, without expanding this out, like he scored in the 79th minute against West Ham, and the 63rd minute against Leicester, and the 76th minute against Everton. He's scoring big goals for, like, he's been a real difference maker, and his goals per minute have to be through the roof. is my guess. Oh, right, it has it right here. He's scored right now this season. He's scoring a goal every 34 minutes.
That's crazy.
That's fucking insane. So yeah, that's maybe somebody we should have closed the deal on instead of sending a delegation to Naples.
Well, yeah, but he's not playing as a 9 though, is he? Oh yeah, he's playing as a 9.
Yeah, he's a 9. He comes on for Watkins. Usually.
Interesting.
Yeah.
He picked that ball up for a shot very deep. That's why I was surprised. But yeah. To your point, like that type of Jackson, for his fine attributes, is kind of a one-trick pony.
What's the trick?
Poacher, world-class poacher.
I think that's so unfair to Nico Jackson.
Okay, fine. Well,
dude, he's so fast, and his link-up is pretty good.
His link up. I think his link up's mid. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I guess that transitioning in the Chelsea topic, right?
We'll
the
talk
last
about Chelsea,
game.
Yeah.
I think for me, the most interesting question out of this is whether Nkunku should be starting over Nicholas Jackson, because in my opinion, his link up is light years better than Jackson's. I think his decision making's better. I think he's just as quick. Maybe he's not as fast in a straight line, but he's still pretty damn fast. He gives away a little bit in terms of what you want from a target forward and height and ability to jump a little bit, but I don't know that that's necessarily our style and what we're trying to play through.
Yep.
And maybe more so at the beginning of the game it is. But I thought, at least myopically, yesterday was an example of Nkunku not coming to the game early enough in a game that was calling out for him. But he went in there and won the game winner. So, I think he's making the case, luckily, self-evident that he needs to get more minutes, however that works out.
Yeah. So I think the problem with... All right, so let's back up for a sec. Chelsea won, Bournemouth 0. Nkunku scored the game winner in the 86th minute off an assist that is going to haunt Luke for
let me
months.
Put that down on the list here. Things to take up with Luke.
And so when we were talking about the issue, the Nkunku problem, is that he doesn't want to play as a 9, and he's also just not a 9. Like physically, he's not a 9. He's a 10. He wants to play off someone. And the problem is, and this is where Chelsea's transfer strategy is confusing to me, is that we have obviously chosen to prioritize getting Palmer into that role, into the 10, moving him centrally. And then we have Nkunku, who is world-class in that position too. like won the Golden Boot or the equivalent for the Bundesliga before he came to us and got injured at so like he missed a season with us. Now he's back, but he's a killer in Cuckoo, and so you've got Cole Palmer and Cuckoo, and then you go and get João Felix, and this is who also wants to play there and has his own like. He is not as incisive as those guys to me, but he's really tricky and brings a different dynamic to the team. He's really good at one-on-one duels. He's not as clinical a finisher as Palmer or Nkuku, but
especially off the bench, those are a lot of things. Like he brings a lot. He brings a different look, and he brings a lot to the table. Yeah, so he's a good asset.
But that makes that position really crowded, and the way that we are trying to solve it is we're, I think, going to blur the lines a bit and have Nkuku come and relieve Jackson and maybe João Felix. There's been talks of João Felix playing at 9, and I feel even less good about that than I do Nkuku coming in at 9. But it is not like the situation with the wingers does not bother me anywhere near as much as that number 10 role, because you have a guy who you could argue is the best player in the Premier League. Especially if you exclude Erling Haaland. Cole Palmer had the most goal involvements of anyone last season, and then you've got 2 world-class players right behind him. That is, to me, the biggest puzzle, especially because you basically got forced into, Chelsea were forced into acquiring Felix to make the Conor Gallagher deal go through. So Felix was not part of Chelsea's plan. Sancho, Chelsea had been targeting for years. And like at the end of the day, if you look at the depth with Sterling gone, in this game, so Neto can play on both wings, but I think that he's going to end up being Noni's backup. And then on the left, you have Sancho and you have Mudryk. And this is definitely a prove-it year for Mudryk, but Sancho is going to be the starter over there. That couldn't be any more clear to me. He after what did he have, like 20 minutes in this one? Oh no, he came in at half. He had a full half.
Yeah, I agree. Sanchez got to be starting next game. I mean, I think. Yeah, I mean, you're right. That's the puzzle. I just think we're not being, and this kind of links into another point, which I'm not that impressed with Maresca's like substitution patterns and timing so far. But even his roster selection, right? Like in this one, like Enzo wasn't available, right? Like maybe you wanted to start Vega anyways. Like Caicedo could have started outright for Disasi and inverted instead of Cucurella. So essentially in possession, he's playing in the same spot and then he's giving cover. We had all the possession in this game, so I don't think that would have been a problem. And then
you mean instead of Disasi?
Yeah, and then bring in Nkuku to start and just have, if you want Vegas holding the middle of the midfield with Caicedo or whatever that looks like in defense, like fine, you have 5 guys back there, but. I don't. It seems like we're trying to fit square pegs in the round holes, to your point, rather than working with what we have at the moment. Now, when Enzo's healthy, I don't know that can't work either, right? Like, you have Enzo play deeper. He hasn't been all that effective going. Like, he doesn't need to be way forward to be an effective, like, build-up and passer and playing on top of Palmer and Nkuku. I think he's comfortable playing behind him. But, again, like maybe Caicedo doesn't want to start there and invert. I don't know. But or they think that he can cover that much more territory just being allowed to roam. But it was obvious that Disasi shouldn't have been on the field after, like, 10 minutes. It was calling out for a substitution after 25, and then he waits till into the second half to take Disasi off.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that like especially because he made a substitution at half. You know, like I get
Right.
the argument of like let's see how things go in the first 10 minutes of this half, like see how the players react to the chat or whatever. But he made a sub, and it like at halftime he brought Sancho on for Neto, and obviously the biggest problem on the pitch was Disassi.
Yeah.
I don't know what Chelsea does with Disassi. He was like, I was thinking this morning that I can't recall a worse performance at the top. Like, he looked absolutely lost.
Well, but Maresca gave him 62 minutes.
Yeah. Now, in fact, like, I get starting Disassi because that's where he's been playing in the Conference League for us in that position. So that is the role that like we've decided Disassi is playing, and he's like backing up a position where we have a very injury-prone player in Reece James, who's just like available for 1 out of every 3 games. And yeah, so in this situation, Gusto and Reece James are both injured, and you gotta like Disassi is the most trained in that position. Now, that I would hope that is the last time we ever see him on the pitch, unless there is some sort of like on the level of last season's injury crisis occurs.
Well, especially given like how effective Tosin was playing there, and then man,
Tosin didn't play there. They
Fofana moved out wide, right?
there. Yeah.
Tosin but
played,
anyways.
So Fofana can play out there.
Yeah.
Cucurella played great at right wing back last season when we had injury issues, and you've got Chilwell that you could have started over, so you could have had Chile on the left, Cucurella on the right. You could have started with Fofana out right, and Caicedo for Brighton has played in that position too. Now, I can kind of appreciate if Enzo Fernandez is out, you want one of your 2 normal starters marshalling the midfield, especially with a very young, very green Renato Vega, who I thought was excellent in this game. Vega was really good in this one, and I think that's going to be on the level of Malo Gusto type signing for us in terms of the player's profile coming in versus how good they end up being. It's going to be that level of like I think they paid 8 million euros for him. It's going to be an absolute sniping of a player for Chelsea. And then like the last thing I'll say on this one, Rob Sanchez played out of his fucking mind this match. I'm well on the record that I don't believe in Rob Sanchez. My assumption, even still, like I'm happy to be proven wrong over the next few games.
Yeah, maybe this launches him on a trajectory. But it was a sight to behold.
Yeah, I still think that Jorgensen will eventually play him out of a position, and then Gaga Slonina will come in and take both their jobs. But
I was gonna keep a straight face until you started chuckling. But I mean, that could be what happens. Like I don't actually know. I just don't have any evidence to make that any more of a coin flip that it is. But Jorgensen looked good. But at least we know how these things work, right? Like, if you're the starter and you play well, then you're probably going to continue, right? And so, it's at least good to see the starter playing well than be in a position where, again, I'm looking at Maresca wondering what the hell he's looking for. And doesn't have to equal 10 to make the right decisions, right? So,
yeah. What? Let me see here. The
Neto looked pretty disappointing in this one. I think he kind of cemented himself as a super sub, unfortunately for him in this one, given how well Sancho played. And we'll spend some time singing Sancho's accolades when Luke graces us with his presence next.
Yeah, dude. Sanchez subs on after Luke said that he was last week said that it was a puzzling signing. He subs on, absolutely torches the the Bournemouth defense repeatedly and assists the game winner.
As I told Luke.
And and the Chelsea fans are singing his name 45 minutes into his career as a Chelsea player, like literally singing his name. I'm gonna drop to you on Discord. Let me see if I can find you real quick.
Another gem.
This is the match momentum. Can you point on this chart to where Chelsea's on the bottom of that? Can you point on that chart to where Disassi subbed off?
Where'd you post it?
I sent it to you as a private message, but I could drop it.
Private message. Okay, here it is. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, or a direct message rather. Like
the 60-second minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can see. Holy
just
crap,
immediately, the minute he came off the pitch, Bournemouth were just shut down. Like it just shored everything up. It was like we were playing a man down for 2/3 of this match. It was crazy coaching.
That's just what I don't get.
Crazy
like, how much? Yeah.
Do you remember when he just slid down on his do you remember
honestly
that?
All the shitty plays blur together like it was just this giant pile of shit.
There was that Bournemouth were on a break and he signaled for Fofana to come take the ball and it was like his controller got disconnected. Like he just
and he's just trotting back.
Yeah, dude. That was a career worst performance I've seen from someone. It was remarkable. I hopefully your neighbors have recovered from how much I was screaming in your apartment.
Yeah.
At Disassi.
Wow, they've heard worse in here, but yeah, I mean, they again it reinforces I'm not gonna it's good to see Maresca winning games, but whether it's that or starting Neto over Sancho or not getting Nkunku on the field earlier, I haven't been impressed. But you know, it's enough to get when you have the players. Coaches are just a piece of the equation, right? So when you have the players and you get them on the field, the right combination, eventually, you could win games. But I'm hoping he gets a little bit more savvy about things moving forward.
Yeah. Dude, Fofana was all over the place. I'm looking at the individual heat maps.
Yeah, maybe I'm a dumbass about wanting to play Caicedo and invert him, but Fofana it did fine, right? So again, there's solutions there. And I'm not a professional coach, but at face value, these seem like obvious options you'd want to explore.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, Noni and at halftime, I said that I thought that the changes that needed to be made, I thought they needed to shift Palmer out to the right. He was getting beat up in the middle of the pitch, wasn't getting involved very well.
Yeah.
I am not as convinced as you and Luke, and I think everyone else. I think I am on an island, but I think Palmer's best position is playing in off the right. I am not convinced by him being in the middle of the pitch. I could be completely wrong, but
I don't know if I'm necessarily that opposed to that. I just feel like Madueke is one of the 2 or 3 most dangerous players on our team consistently, and he needs to be on the field, and that's where
I agree with that.
Palmer gets shifted.
It is that is a problem. Noni is, and then you've got Esteval coming in next season too. So, how do you manage that transition if Palmer's over there? I don't know, but Palmer shifted out to the right. They brought Felix in at 10, and Nkunku played up top. came in for Jackson, and Sancho at halftime subbed on for Neto, and Disasi came off. We talked about that. All of that like seriously changed the game for us.
Yeah,
especially the Disasi sub like that.
Here's a good statistics question for you. How did we finish with an 85% pass success percentage when Disasi was on the field for 62 minutes?
Great question.
That's absolutely shocking.
Yeah. So while we were watching this,
facts.
I asked Derek at one point what percent, like if the ball is at Disasi's feet from the next action, what percent of that next action results in Bournemouth securing possession of the ball? And I was like, do you think it's over or under 70%? You know, like that's about where like it felt like every time he touched the ball, he just gave it back to Bournemouth. This was a gross game. Like Chelsea did not look good, especially in the first half. It was mayhem. It set the record for the most yellow cards in a PL match ever. Like I said earlier, Chelsea was fined for ill discipline. I think it speaks volumes, though, to Maresca's credit, I guess, who also got a yellow card, that the entire back line was on a yellow except Disasi, and he subbed Disasi off.
Yeah.
So, like, there is some credit to him there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Sancho.
What do you make of all the yellow cards in the Premier League and in this game?
There were some that, like that yellow card they gave Fofana, I thought was ridiculous. I guess we could talk about Sanchez. Sanchez was exposed by Fofana on a bad back pass to him, which led to a penalty for Bournemouth, and Sanchez made a what the announcers called a pedestrian save, but I thought it was a great save.
Yeah, fuck them. That was a great save. It's bottom 90. Like, you don't...
It's tough to save, man. Like, yeah. But I thought that Fofana's yellow card wasn't deserved. I'm not sure that Sanchez, his yellow was deserved.
Did Sanchez take that yellow for
it was
that?
Yeah, it was for the penalty that got. It wasn't a red because he was making a play at the ball. But yeah, I disagree with a penalty being given there. Sanchez is pretty, like, he didn't run through Evan, or who was it? Was it Kluivert? I forget who was in, but he doesn't run through them. He is planted, making a play at the ball,
standing his ground,
and got run into.
And they tried to say it because he had his hand out. Like I don't even know if the player hit his hand. If it was incidental and didn't have any impact on anything.
Yeah, no, it had no impact because the ball had already been played. It was heading out of bounds. Like, I thought all of that was very weird. But Sanchez made a great save, and we move on. But to answer your question, I am totally on board with all of these dissent cards. I think that the players running over and screaming at the ref and complaining,
they're earning it. Like, it's so clear they're earning these.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. So, yeah, I'm fine with it. I think that, like, Declan Rice's 2 yellows resulting in a red, optically, like, I don't really agree with it, but it is the rule, and they're just applying, they're holding these players to the rules, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I think I still see a lot of inconsistency, but at least this seems like a move towards consistency and actually enforcing the rules. And not. You can get into the argument if it's against the spirit of the game and how things have been officiated, but I think it gotten things got too loosey goosey in terms of what was enforceable versus not.
Yep. Yeah, and I hate Anthony Taylor as much as the next guy, but I actually had no problem with the disciplines he was giving out in this match, and Chelsea largely only have themselves to blame for like the amount of yellow cards they took. Like,
yeah, Nico's gonna like set a Premier League record for dissent yellow cards.
Yeah, I don't remember how many. Like Bournemouth played physical. Like it was obvious they had a plan, especially with Cole Palmer, to clip him, like make it physical, and I felt earned a lot of their cards for the level of physicality that they approached the game with. Chelsea, like Jackson, I think Colwill, Maresca, Sancho, João Felix, I think all of them, 5 of them, were for dissent.
What did Sancho even take a yellow? I don't even remember. Yeah, well, it's tough to keep track of all of them. But like some of them's like.
I think he took it almost immediately after subbing on because he like ran over and started yapping at the ref about a call. Yeah. So I'm fine with it, man. Because I don't think it's just such a. I don't like the players running over and
I just think about it. Like I have obviously I'm not one to shy away from taking a yellow for dissent in my recreational career, but like I think you have to say your piece and then like move on with the game. Like the running up and getting in their face stuff. Like I don't know. It's just like this like professionalized bullshit that like it doesn't need to be in the game. Like I don't think anyone's getting anything out of that, and it's not helping the players or the quality of the refereeing or anything. Just slowing down and chopping up the game into this bullshit. So I would agree. Like this weekend's slate of like free for all yellow cards, like I'm okay with it.
Yep. Well, that's all I got. You have any other topics you want to cover? I guess like we kind of kept an eye on the Milan game and Pulisic was cooking in that.
Another good game by Pulisic, goal and assist in this one. I think that was Venezia they thumped. I think it was 4-0 at the end. Shocking to see that team keep a clean sheet, that being Milan, but did in this one. They are cooking on all cylinders. I think Aaronson's now played like 300 minutes already for Leeds, or somewhere in that range. Continue to be a pretty integral piece for them. I don't know, Luke's had some bad things to say about him. I think he's gotten a bad rap relative to his age and like his body of work, and still has probably potentially a very bright future for the men's national team and potentially in the Premier League next season. So I think all hope is not lost there. And it's good to see him kind of bouncing back in a way. And we'll see what Poch gets out of him, I guess, as that saga begins in earnest now.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking at Pulisic. He's cooking, man, this season. An assist and a goal in that one. He's the highest average rated player on Milan through 4 games. Yeah. And that team, Venezia, they're in last in the. they're not good. Not good.
Oh, well, that would explain it. That might be the only clean sheet that Milan keeps this season, based on what I've seen out of their defense over the last 12 months.
Yeah, Inter is playing right now against Monza. Yep. All right. Well, that's probably a wrap. We're like right at time, I guess, for what's normal for us. Like and subscribe, leave some comments, a review on your favorite podcast platform. That would all be fantastic. We are very active in our Discord. A link to that is in the description for this episode, this and every episode. And beyond that, we'll just catch you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you then.
Thanks, everybody.